Hello, everybody, and good morning, I guess, for most of the people, and welcome to Nixu's fourth and actually the last Cybersecurity Month webinar for this year. My name is Tiina Kärkäinen, and I'm a Cybersecurity Awareness consultant here at Nixu. And I have my colleague Erika Suortti-Myyry here. So Erika, please, can you introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. I'm a senior cybersecurity consultant at Nixu.
Good. Thank you, Erika. All right. So before we move on to the topic, so we're going to talk about how to secure the operations with the third parties, a very important topic. But before we go to the actual topic, just some practicalities. So if you have any questions during or after the presentation, please use the questions or chat functionality. So you can post your questions there at any time. And then we will have some time in the end to answer your questions. Good. All right. So now you can see our agenda for today. So basically, we have divided this presentation in three different parts. The first part, we're gonna take a look at some statistics and just to give you an overview why this topic is important. And then the second part, we will talk about the third-party management, managing it securely on a lifecycle perspective. And then in the end, there will be real-life incidents to give you also a hint that what has actually happened in the previous years. All right, so let's start with the part one. So have you actually ever considered what kind of data your third parties are accessing and managing? So, and do you actually know how critical that data is? According to some recent studies, for example, 20% of the information security incidents are somehow related to third parties, and approximately 53% of the companies have actually experienced a cyber or information security incident where the third parties have been involved, and some of them actually just more than once. And what is also notable is that just to remediate the cost of the incident, it's about approximately $7.5 billion for each case. And then you can just think about that, okay, if this is an average, so it can be even way much bigger. So definitely companies should think about that what they can actually afford. So if we are looking at this on the right hand side of the screen, you can see that what are the main results involved in third-party incidents. So think about if your company is actually, can you afford to lose the productivity or even the reputation? What would that do to your business? And what is the actual amount of money that you could afford to lose as a result of a cyber incident? So these were some facts. There are lots of other facts. For example, approximately 16% of the companies are actually actively taking care of the third-party risks. So I think there's definitely a lot of work to be done. And that's why we are here today. So I think I'm going to hand over to Erika. So Erika will start going through the actual topics and how to manage the third parties.
Thank you. So we are looking at the different phases or stages of the third-party management lifecycle using three third-party example profiles. So the first one will be service provider with access to your environment. The second one will be a cloud service used as a that will provide a service to you, and without without you actually administering the service in any way. And then as a third example, a component or product supplier who is providing a component or a product that is either hardware or software to support your business. And we will go through some highlights in the different life cycle phases using these three example profiles. Just a high level look at the different stages in a cooperation life cycle. Before the cooperation starts, that's the most important phase, where you can actually where you're setting the stage for the cooperation, basically, because if you want to do something cybersecurity wise in the, after you have started a cooperation, it's going to be very difficult, and you may not be able to start doing different things in the cybersecurity wise with your third parties after the contract has been agreed on, and so that's why you should emphasize that phase when we are looking at the life cycle. And then during the cooperation is of course very important to monitor what is happening in different ways. And then lastly, after cooperation, when the cooperation ends with with the third party, what things you need to bear in mind in that phase. That is the phase that is often the most overlooked. So before you start a cooperation, you should look at the risks of a certain third party, and to be able to do this, you should of course have built some sort of third party risk management model for your company, and then assign the third party in question into a category of how much risk is poses to your organization. And the risks that are could be generic, that is even if you are not a company in a financial sector, for example, criminals are going to be interested in financial gain, so that all the parts of your business that have to do with money, those are going to be risky. And then there are sector specific risks. If you are, for example, your company is energy company, it's going to be targeted more than some companies in different sectors, just because it's critical infrastructure, and it's even critical infrastructure. So that means that other companies that are in the critical infrastructure sector are going to depend on you. And it's of course important to look at what resources you have available, how much manpower, how much money you can invest in this third party risk handling, and for example auditing and other things that are available, and portion out those resources intelligently based on the risks that the different third parties pose to your operations. And supply chains can be very long, so you're basically often having to do with a third party, but in fact you are your business could be affected by the third party of the third party of the third party of the third party. So in a chain where you at some point arrive to a third party that doesn't understand at all what your business is about, and could have very sloppy practices, for example, because they don't understand that their component or a piece of software is going to be used for critical operations. And you should always think about when you're thinking about the risk, what you stand to lose if they lose your data or that of your customers, or leak your data. Lose your data is the data gets destroyed, it isn't available anymore. Leak your data is that someone else will get their hands on the data. This could be, of course, brand image losses, but also some sanctions, some fines you have to pay. And if you're out of if your third party goes out of operation due to a cybersecurity incident, what do you do in that case? You have to think about how you can handle that kind of situation. And what if they cause you to be out of operation due to a cybersecurity incident, for example, ransomware running rampant in your environment? In that situation, it's even if there are some sanctions in the contracts, those won't be covering all your losses. And if the risk is unbearable, what do you do? In many cases, you could have a small third party that doesn't have very good cybersecurity, and you are aware of it, but they have, for example, the competence you need for maintaining a component, maintaining a system, and then you'd be using some compensating controls. Maybe you can give them a laptop that's maintained by you, for example, or use some other compensating controls, so you will be able to use the services, but do not the risk of something happening is not that great anymore. And the different tools that are available at the start and also during the during cooperation are, of course, audits of different kinds, either governance type audits when you when papers are looked at, but also you could have penetration testing or real technical audits of an environment to see how things are really set up at the service, for example, at the service provider level. And then self-assessment queries, asking the third party what the state of security is, but those are basically awareness instrument, more or less. It's not going to save you in most cases. And then discussion with third parties in some cases, that's a sufficient instrument to use for getting better cybersecurity based on what risk decisions you have made. And then there are services for assessing third-party cybersecurity, such as security scorecard, that are of course those fairly expensive and mainly geared towards bigger companies, but on the other hand are a very good tool for looking at cybersecurity at the company looks like. Are their credentials, for example, leaked, or how does their web presence look like? Is it something that can be easily broken into? And the first stage before starting cooperation, as I said, it's the honeymoon phase. So the phase where you can you set the stage for the coming cooperation, and where things are more easy to agree on the process level, and also cybersecurity requirements level. And I think that it's more useful to have cybersecurity requirement sets that maybe is easier to use, but that doesn't, and it's used more or less for all the different third parties, and instead of having some very difficult to use long set of cybersecurity requirements that tries to be complete and tries to take all the different aspects of cybersecurity into account. Those are generally the smaller sets that are easier to use actually get used, instead of if you have the large sets, then it is being used somewhere, but not in all the projects, for example. And before starting the cooperation, you should also look at how to monitor cybersecurity, what tools you will use there. Do you want to do audits during the cooperation, maybe when there are major changes? Do you want to have discussions about cybersecurity? What happens if there is an incident, a problem, cybersecurity wise? How is that going to be handled? And also plan ahead for the end of the cooperation, mainly from the point of view, for example, of documentation. If you are going to, when you are going to end the cooperation with a certain party, that you have sufficient documentation available, so you can go on from there. It will be possible for you, for example, if you buy code from a third party, buy a component from a third party, to somehow continue from that situation. So the three example profiles we're going to use is a service provider that has to generalize, usually has access to your environment in different ways, either only remotely or on site, or then they might be running some servers in their environment that have access to your environment directly. Cloud service, they have your data, and how they operate is of course also important, but your own operations don't affect them directly. And then the product or component supplier can affect your business and your customers if you are do products yourself and then sell them to your customers. So if there is anything problematic in the products or the components, they might be affected. So for the first phase before cooperation, for the service provider, the most important things are that they need to have secure infrastructure and tools if they're going to have remote access to your environment. and then they need to have knowledge of if there are any regulations that are relevant to your sector. They need to be knowledgeable about those. And of course, something that is sometimes could be seen as self-evident, but your own infrastructure needs to be secure. It needs to, if the service provider has some cyber security problems and that can affect your environment, it should be built in a way that they can be mitigated in some way. They can't be allowed to run rampant in your environment. And the cloud service, of course, it's important that they have a secure infrastructure, and that they need to have some proof of security, some audit reports, or otherwise you should consider performing a third-party audit to their environment. And then important things, data location. If the data they are handling for you should be cannot, for example, be stored outside the European Union, then it should not be stored outside. They should make sure that it stays inside EU borders, for example, or for example in a certain country. And furthermore, in the cloud service situation, it's important to understand that you can give your data over to the cloud service provider, but you still are responsible for if they're handling it for you, you're still responsible if something goes wrong. You can't give over responsibility to them for securing your data completely. You will be the one that is looked at if there is an incident and a data gets leaked. And in the case of the component or product manufacturer, the products, of course, need to be secure and need to be developed in a secure way. Preferably using some known models, and then third-party testing. It's not enough to the products to be developed in a secure way according to the manufacturer. They should be tested to see if they are really secure or not. And then supply chain security, I talked about earlier already. It could be that down the chain there is a component that where, for example, the security of the provider of that component is not very good, and then it will travel up the chain and then affect all the different products that are using that component. And then let's go on to what you can do during cooperation. Cybersecurity needs to be discussed during cooperation. If you have any recurrent meetings with the third party, you should have cybersecurity as a part of the normal discussions. And if there are any incidents, near misses, problems, they need to be fed into your processes, such as risk management, so that things can change if there is an incident. You need to do you may need to change how cybersecurity is set up, and maybe in some cases go on to the next stage when you actually stop cooperation with the third party if it looks like that things are not going to be changed, and they are not responsive to your requests. And then audits and testing also during the cooperation, if there are big changes in software, for example, if there are big changes in the company, how it's set up, it's a good idea to do those also during the cooperation. If you have a important third party that is creating a lot of risk to your environment, or theoretically could pose risk to your environment, that you audit them also during the cooperation. And then documentation needs to be updated, documentation about, for example, the different remote accesses that the third party has, that needs to be updated also during the cooperation, so that when we go on to the next stage, it's possible to remove the remote accesses and also move on with another third party, so you are not left in a there is as short a period between closure of cooperation agreement and then actually being able to maintain the environment with a new third party, or by, of course, by yourself. If we are looking at now at the service provider, what needs to happen during the cooperation, you should use at least the same baseline as for your own employees. If you are, for example, using multi-factor authentication, if you are not allowing them to use shared credentials, the service provider should not use shared credentials, because they have the capacity to use to cause more harm than your own employees. And then or at least as much harm as your own employees. Secure behavior in your environment, it's a good idea to train them if they are not trained by the third party company, and also otherwise it's a good idea to train them to the standard that you train your own employees. And of course they need to have secure infrastructure and tools if they're going to be able to access your environment remotely. Changes in roles important. If some person at the service provider no longer needs to have access to the environment, their access should be removed also during the cooperation. And how to operate the shared processes, if you have shared processes, for example, related to incidents and problems, how they are going to work with the service provider. And cloud service, secure infrastructure that should stay secure, so the management processes should be good to, and patches and should be installed often, and vulnerabilities should be managed. Otherwise, as well, if incidents happen, they need to add controls. They need to change things so that the incident cannot happen again. And secure operations, how they maintain their environment needs to be secure so that it can stay secure. component and product manufacturer, patch and vulnerability management. From a different point of view, the patches need to be created if there are any bugs in the software and in the products, and they need to have the secure development methods that we discussed already. They need to have a secure development environment that cannot be breached to either steal your code, your IPR, or to add some malicious code to the production codes, because that's of course the easiest place to do things is at the development environment to add things there. And then secure update infrastructure needs to be secure so that it cannot be breached. And then also you need to have digital signatures or such methods to validate the patches. And when the cooperation ends, as I said, generally the least defined stage, many companies are starting to be relatively good at the cybersecurity requirements and auditing at the start of a cooperation. There are some things that are done during the cooperation, and then at the end, many companies don't have processes, don't have documentation for the different what accesses, what credentials the third party has, for example. That's not documented. So that's something that you should look into if you're building a third party management model, how to decrease the cybersecurity risk for ending the old contract and then discontinuity in operations. What I discussed, that there should be as little time between ending a old contract and then keeping for example, the patches up to date in the environment, because the world around you is not going to stop. So cybersecurity risks will crop up all the time. So you can't stop maintaining the environment until you know what you have. Service provider, of course, the remote accesses I already mentioned. Passwords, system accesses, those need to be removed. Tools, if they have your laptops, for example, you need to take those back. Any documents you have given them, those needs to be destroyed. Badges, physical access, and then documentation, so you can move over the maintenance and operations to a different party, and don't have this long period between when your environment is not secure. For the cloud service, get back your data or get it destroyed, so it doesn't get leaked after you have finished cooperation. Remove any sites and servers. They might be they might be maintaining for you. Decide what to do about domain names so that they are not abused for example, malicious code and then taken over by a criminal, for example. Component manufacturer, you need to get back your code or get it destroyed, and your IPR, and then you need to have documentation at the level so you can go on getting the code, for example, needs to be, if they produce code for you. It needs to be documented to a level that it can be updated and maintained by someone else as well. So let's then move on to the last part, the real life cases. I have selected a few, but there could have been many more. As a quick guide to what cyber threats can target you. If any part of your business handles money, it will be targeted, as we said. If a component, software, service provided used widely enough, it will be targeted at some point. The very popular software services components are going to be targeted. If something is very easy to exploit, it's for example, a website or service that hasn't been patched, is using old technology, it will be targeted at some point. So even if you yourself think that you might not be a very good target for cyber criminals, you might be hit because, for example, your service provider is being used by many other parties, and then breach for that reason, and they will of course use any data and accesses they get through that channel. As a first example, insecure operations. The cause of this incident was that they didn't require multi-factor authentication for third parties, and how they could then at the end steal all the credit and debit cards of was insecure operations by the company. They had plain text credit cards, and they had some password available, but those could not be abused if there had not been the credit, the first success by the criminals that they managed to phish and get third-party credentials that they could abuse, because there was no multi-factor authentication. And that's something that if you are not using multi-factor authentication, then at some point the criminals will get to your own employees and to the third parties, and will be able to get the credential in some way, and then if you don't protect yourself in other ways, you'll end up having an incident. And the losses for the company, of course, brand image for British Airways, but also they had to pay a 20 million fine for the insecurities in their network, and losing all the card details. And for the case of how different companies got to be targets, being customers for important service provider, Wipro could be attacked by having an insecure email server, and also some other security failures in the infrastructure, so that customer networks could be accessed through the network. And for the case of a SaaS provider that had personal data. There were many cases of this, but as an example, the PageUp, it's an recruitment site that we use for by big companies in Australia, and they could be breached because their security was not up to scratch, and then the personal data related to recruitments by all the companies that were PageUp customers could be used. There were fortunately no credit card details in this case, but it was they are going through the courts now with this. But in the case of if this were to happen in European Union, you'd have problems with the GDPR regulation and probably a hefty fine. And an example for I have two examples about vulnerability through supply chains. This is something that is increasing the whole time. In 2017, there was the attack known as Shadowpad, where the development environment of a server management platform manufacturer was breached, and as a result, there was a backdoor that got into the network of several large corporations using the software. And of course, in this case, there were several security failures in the development environment that the company was using, and then furthermore, lack of controls in the code development chain. Other examples for this is NotPetya that you are probably all aware of, but that was perpetrated by a government actor. So it's a good example, but you need to think about other actors than government actors also in your threat picture. And then another vulnerability to supply chain, the so-called Mage Card attack in 2019, where the advertising service was breached and malicious code was included in third-party JavaScript library that was in turn used on e-commerce websites, and that's something that's this has been happening the whole time and will continue to happen, because websites are getting more and more complex, and it's more and more difficult to say what different pieces of code are actually running on your website. And as a result, customer credit card details could be stolen when they entered them to the e-commerce websites. In this case, there was again the same causes: security failures in development platform and lack of controls, but also the websites were not really monitored to see what is actually in the what code is being served to customers. So we have reached the end of the presentation, and just as a reminder that cybersecurity is on standing on 2 feet, technology and governance, but that attitude is something that I would say it's most important, that in all cases the people want to behave in a cybersecurity aware way in all operations. So we should have you, Tiina, the questions?
Yeah.
Are there any questions?
Yeah, so I'm going to move here, so I don't know if you can see me. Yeah, at the moment there are a few questions, so if I just read them out loud for you and everybody can hear them. So let's start with the first one. So what is the typical evidence needed from a component supplier for secure development in the honeymoon period before signing the contract?
I would go for trusted third-party independent testing report, either done by you, or then if they have other customers that have requested this, they usually have done some testing already by a independent third party.
Okay, thank you, Erika. Then the second question, what are the typical third-party test component manufacturers should share in the honeymoon period before signing the contract? I think this is actually almost the same.
Yeah.
You can just read it yourself, so you can. So I guess this is about the tests. So
yeah,
what type of tests?
Well, it depends on the component, of course, but usually you'd have some testing the interfaces, for example, of the component, and in some cases you'd go for actual code reviews inside the what code is running on the component itself. But that's of course already much more. It's going to cost more, and but could be depending on what sector you are in, and could be required.
Yeah, all right, good. Then another question, based on your experience, what is the maturity of third-party risk management frameworks of Finnish companies compared to the other countries?
Well, that's I would say that many of the bigger companies that are operating in different countries, but have Finnish roots, the bigger ones, they're usually pretty good with the risk management part, and starting they have something at the beginning of the cooperation that's set up, but during what happens during the cooperation and what happens at the end, that's much more sketchy. And usually if there's something in place, it's not really it's generic contractual stuff, and not from the point of view of cybersecurity security and continuation of operations perspective.
Okay, thank you. So can you, Erika, still check if there are any other questions there, if you just lift it up, the panel there.
Okay, I seem to have some issues with this.
Getting up.
Yeah.
Okay, let me try. Just a moment. Okay, now I think let's see. Yeah, I think that's all for now.
Okay. Thanks everyone. And in case you have any questions related to the subject, feel free to reach out to me also after the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you all, also from my behalf. So hopefully you got some ideas and support to continue and move forward with your third-party security management. And like Erika said, feel free to contact us for further information. Thank you and have a great day.